Welcome to Module 201, Lesson 3, Setting Goals and Tracking Progress. I'm Emily.
And I'm Ayla, and we are your MYZONE Master Trainers.
Let's use the assessments we just mentioned to now set goals and track progress. And we're going to go over the how and the when. So first, when do we set goals? We can do this at a variety of times, including, of course, at the beginning of your program, after doing pre-assessments with your client, after any follow-up assessments that you do, once your client's goals are achieved, set new ones, and anytime your client needs a motivational change.
Now let's talk about how to set goals. Many of you have probably done some sales training and you've heard of some of these principles. One is the 90-10 rule, where you provide your client ownership of the goal setting process by allowing them to do the majority of the talking. They get to do 90% of the talking, you do 10%. So you're asking questions, good questions, to elicit information and get specific. Speaking of specific, you may have remembered the acronym S.M.A.R.T goal setting. S stands for specific, M is measurable, A is action-oriented, R is realistic, and then T is time-bound or timely, where you're putting a specific time constraint on the goal. It's also good to have your clients write goals down. I know that's been an effective practice for me. And then have them say their goals out loud, not only to you, but also have them tell one friend or family member about that goal as well. And then you'll want to help your client map both short-term and long-term goals. Longer-term goals might be 6 months to a year out, and shorter-term goals are you can go weekly, monthly, maybe 3 months at a time, and the short-term goals should help your client map their way to achieving the longer-term goals.
So once your client has started their exercise program with you, how can you track their progress and when can you do so? For the when, you can of course track progress with follow-up assessments. And that's kind of the point of the follow-up assessment, right? To see where your client is at. Yeah. You can also track progress at each session with your client, comparing the previous session to the one that they are performing or have just performed. And then you can also track progress after the week. Do an overview of the week and see how your client has progressed from Monday to Friday or whenever your training ends with them.
That's the when of tracking progress. Now, how you can track progress, and Emily touched on this a little bit, you can use the assessments that we showed you in Lesson 1 and Lesson 2. That was the submaximal heart rate assessment and the resting or the recovery heart rate assessment. Emily also talked earlier about a resting heart rate assessment, where you have your client put their MYZONE belt on either to sleep in or right away when they wake up in the morning, and that will capture their resting heart rate, and you can see how their resting heart rate is decreasing over time. Dialogue is also key in the how of tracking progress. Talk to your client at every session, before, during, and after. Ask them how they're feeling, and then also check in with them about how they prefer to communicate between sessions. Do you guys exchange text messages? Are you checking in on the phone? How are you communicating about progress? Reminding them maybe to eat breakfast before they come. If they had a cup of coffee before the pre-assessment, make sure you have a cup of coffee before the post-assessment. Objective and subjective assessments are great to use with clients because you get the objective measurable data to check in with, and you also have the subjective feedback about how your client is feeling. And I think it's important to coach them that both are very meaningful. If they notice subjectively that they feel better, they have more energy throughout the day, that can be just as meaningful as the objective data that you're collecting. And then MYZONE, of course, provides the fantastic activity calendar. You can, as the trainer, go through that activity calendar with your client at every visit, and you can see what they've done in the week prior and make sure that you're holding them accountable for what you've assigned to them. And then, of course, the MYZONE status. Emily and I just recently reached diamond status, which means that for 3 years in a row, we have maintained minimal physical activity levels and earned 1,300 MEPs each month. Track your client's status with them because the status rewards consistency, and that is huge. Thank you for joining us for Module 201, Lesson 3.